Alrighty, so all the games from match week number 3 is in the books. And by the way, these last couple of days I have been battling a bit of a fever, and I actually haven't been working these last couple of days. Which the good news is that I'm able to watch some of these matinee games on a weekend, which usually isn't the case because I'm working during those matinee games. But that being said, I wasn't able to have enough strength to do the review of these matinee game on Saturday because Saturday was the day when I was really battling the fever, and I was kind of a little bit but thankful the fact that it kind of gone away as we get close to the busy action of the Saturday night action, because I thought I wasn't going to be have enough strength to even keep track of all these games that happen on Saturday night. And also, by the way, throughout this video, I'm going to be drinking my tea here, trying to still recover from this battle of this fever that I've been getting these last couple of days. But despite that, the show has to go on, and we have to do the review of the first 7 games that happen as part number 1 of this review. And you notice I said 7 games instead of usual 8 that I do for part 1 of the review. That's because one of the game played for 5 minutes between the Philadelphia Union and the Seattle Sounders, and then they realized that, yeah, let's not play on a waterlogged pitch. I mean, after 5 minutes of play, they realized that, yeah, playing on a waterlogged pitch is a bad idea. It's just as bad as an idea as a snow blanketed field, according to Steve Toronto, that is. And that game is now being postponed to a later date. And to this day, we still don't know exactly when that game is going to be postponed to, because, they couldn't pick it up in the next morning since the Union already planned to fly out to Mexico to prepare their second leg round of 16 CONCACAF Champions Cup matchup against Pachuca. But that being said, another thing that was kind of interesting from this match week is that we saw a lot of stoppage time goals and some late game drama. And the first game we're going to talk about basically had exactly that. So this was a game where I would say that it was kind of a tale of two halves, where NYCFC were the better team in the first half, and then the second half, that's when the script flipped the other way, where the Timbers started to control the position. But unfortunately, that's kind of not really the style the Timbers like to put. They kind of had their struggle in terms of creating chances, and not to mention, it feels like if a game is taking place in the Northeast, either in the New York or Philadelphia area, that means you're gonna have to deal with the pitch being completely wet. And while the Yankee Stadium pitch wasn't actually as waterlogged as what we see in the pitch at Subaru Park, yeah, it was at times kind of tough for both of these teams to try to move the ball, and the Timbers had problem in terms of trying to get themselves the equalizer, but eventually they did. And little do we know that they decided to get more than just the point that they deserved. They got after playing well in the second half. Now, early on, Crepeau would deny Wolf from point blank as Baccarat would miss wide from close range, as I thought NYCFC was on the front foot. They were looking to try to score their first goal of the season because, coming into this game, they still have not registered a single goal. And it finally happened in the 10th minute, as Santi Rodriguez would score from Martins to make it 1-0 in favor of NYCFC. The Timbers just didn't clear their lines here. I mean, how many times I mentioned how when you don't clear your lines, you're going to be punished, and that's exactly what happened here for the Portland Timbers. But then Baccarat had another chance in the 16th minute as he was in on goal there, but he missed wide, and then Crepon would deny Baccarat from close range. And I gotta say, Sam Baccarat, he was snake bitten in this game. No matter what he tried to do, even as a little spoiler alert, when he did put the ball into the back of the net, he was denied by the flag. But there was no doubt that NYCFC up to that point came to play. They were looking to try to get the second goal. The first shot for the Timbers did Saul Williamson puts it wide from close in the 30th minute, and then Wolf on the other end missed wide from long range. And we head to halftime with NYCFC leading 1-0. But as we head in the second half, I didn't write this, but the Portland Timbers started to really control this game with the possession. Though Crepeau did deny Baccarat from close range because Baccarat cannot allow to score a goal in this one. And as I mentioned earlier, he also are not allowed to score a goal, register a goal, even when he put the ball into the back net, because he was in an offside position. So yeah, this is when he scored here in the 65th minute, but the goal was disallowed for offside. Despite the fact that I thought NYCFC looked for a second goal, the Timbers were really starting to control the possession of this game. Nathan would hit one right to freeze in the 72nd minute before Baccarat would hit it right to Crepeau in the 74th minute. And really, as the time winds down, the Timbers continue to control this game, and it feels like NYCFC is just trying to hold on to get a 1-0 win. And as I'll say many times in this review, and in terms of how teams trying to bunker and hold on to a 1-goal lead, it does not end well for opposition to try to do that, because in the 85th minute the Timbers finally broke through. It's Anthony scoring from Mascara to tie the game up at one apiece, just to kind of prove you that the Timbers got the right Anthony on their team instead of the other one that is not doing very well with Manchester United. And speaking of Anthony, in the 7 minute stoppage time, he would once again get on the board. This time not on the goal scoring chart, but on the assist chart, as Evander, who of course playing in the first game coming off the bench in this one, he would score an absolute golazo here from Anthony to make it 2-1 in favor of the Portland Timbers. The NYCFC player, if they feel like they kind of stopped playing for a second, thinking that the whistle was blown. And I understand, yes, the clock has already struck past the 6 minute of added time, but how many times I've said that if the whistle hasn't been blown, you should not be switching off. And they completely switched off here. They allow Evander with a lot of space to shoot, and with the quality that Evander has, and especially him knowing to score long range goal, yeah, you cannot allow him with that much space. And we'll talk about in this game, that was kind of the same story that we saw in this game as well. But yeah, in this moment, NYCFC completely switch off. They forgot that they shouldn't allow Evander wide open and like that with so much space to shoot from about 24 yards out. But nevertheless, what a goal that is from Evander. And yeah, the Timbers. I mean, I don't want to say they stole all 3 points in this game, because they were the better team in the second half, and they kind of had to wait a while before they get the equalizer. But at the end of the day, they get all 3 points in this one as they win 2-1 in this game. Shots in this one, 9 shots with 11 that NYCFC had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that the Timbers had. Both team had 2 shots off target, both team had 3 shots on the block, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that NYCFC has in this game. And by the way, Timbers, they continue their dominance over NYCFC. I mean, NYCFC, the only time that they beat the Timbers was at MLS Cup 2021, which, again, it's probably a great time for you to only get your first win against the team that you always have problem facing, because at least you win in the biggest game. But they probably are very frustrated the fact that they somehow just cannot solve the Portland Timbers in the regular season, and especially in this game too. They really let this one slip. That's been the one of the big problem for NYCFC in this game, and that this slow start in this game just increased the pressure of Nick Cushing. I mean, I said it last week, and I'm gonna say it again. I would not be surprised if Nick Cushing could be the first one to go, especially with the way that this front office of NYCFC. They're not afraid to let go of a head coach that is not doing well, and especially with Cushing has been given the time to be successful and haven't done so. Do not be surprised if the results continue to go badly. He could be the first one to go for this season in terms of head coaches end up on the chopping block. With that being said, moving on in the next match is Toronto and Charlotte. So again, just like this game also featured the winning goal that almost kind of eerily is very similar to the one that we saw in this game. And guess what? He did it again, Lorenzo Insigne. I mean, he scored a banger not long ago this season. He did it again and wins the game for TFC. Now, early on, in the first half, Urso would head it wide from close range. It was kind of weird to see Junior Urso in a Charlotte jersey, even though we kind of knew that he, of course, signed with Charlotte FC after going on trial with them. And then Vargas would then hit one right to Gavron in the 8th minute. So Gavron gets the start in this one, and he deserved it, because I thought he looked really well down the stretch. The last season. It's good to see that he's been getting the chance, although I'm kind of surprised that they decided to go Gavron, considering Johnson has done really well in the beginning of the season. But there was no doubt that Charlotte was on the front foot. They were looking for the opening goal. Capetti would hit one right to Gavron. Before, there was no penalty that was given to Charlotte after VAR deemed that Gavron did not foul Capetti in the box. Now, during the VAR check, Insigne got booked for looking at the VAR screen. Yeah, you can't do that. Like, it's pretty clear that if you're a player and while referee is checking VAR, you cannot intervene, or else it's an automatic yellow card. But on the call itself, it is the right call because yes, Gavron did kind of came off his lines and didn't get to the ball there, but it definitely looked like Capetti kind of jumped over and tried to maybe embellish a little bit to try and to draw a penalty. Now, I also would like to say that I wouldn't be surprised if that was called a penalty because we have seen some of these controversial call at least in the beginning of the season because of these replacement referees, and we'll definitely talk about some more controversial call, especially in this game as well. But on the replacement ref to not bait him and not realizing that, yeah, yes, I know Gavron didn't get to the ball in terms of that sliding challenge, but it kind of feels like Capelli kind of jumped over and kind of embellished that rather than the fact that Capetti actually trying trying to you know I think in some way maybe Capetti was being a little bit too honest when he tried to jump over. If he maybe took that contact, I think they probably could have given that as a penalty. But no penalty was called, and in the 35th minute, Gavron would deny Capetti from close range as Charlotte was knocking on the door. They were looking to trying to capitalize on the pressure that they put. But then on the other end, Insigne would miss wide as the flag went up. There was a shout for a penalty this time for Toronto, and while that was happening, Franklin would hit one right to Kalina. Jagera then puts it wide from close range, and we head to halftime with the score scoreless, despite the fact that Charlotte was the better team. In the second half, Orenin would then hit it wide on the free kick. Not much really happened in the beginning of the second half, as there was plenty of stop and go kind of action. Though Kalina did deny Bernadeschi from close in the 61st minute. Flores then puts it wide from close range as Toronto started to get a little bit of sustained pressure, which is something we didn't see in the first half. And then eventually in the 80th minute, we see the game winner. It's Lorenzo Insigne. He scored from Matty Longstaff to make it 1-0 in favor of TFC. So Longstaff, of course, making his debut in this game, getting on the assist chart. But this was all Lorenzo Insigne. Again, I think right now, after what we see with these two Colosso that Lorenzo Insigne has scored, I think teams got to realize that, yeah, you better close Insigne down when he's up near the 18-yard box because do not close him down. He has that ability to basically hit an absolute curler that goes into the back of net, and this is exactly like that. I mean, again, between this goal and this goal, it's going to be hard to see which is going to be the goal of the week. And especially speaking of the goal of the week, we also saw maybe a goal of the week in this game as well. So, for those people that is voting for those goal of the week, it's going to be interesting to see who is going to win it. Though something tells me Atlanta's probably gonna gonna win it in terms of the goal of the week. Consider they care about that competition just as much as they trying to get themselves back to MLS Cup. But nevertheless, that was really the final action of this game, as there wasn't really much that happened in the last 10 minutes, as Toronto continued the surprising run under John Herman with a 1-0 win over Charlotte. The shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 10 that Charlotte has. Both teams had 3 shots on goal, 5 shots off target for the 2 that Toronto has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 6 that Toronto has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to the 43% possession that Charlotte has in this game. And for Charlotte, I don't think they play bad in this game as well. In fact, I thought this was a very evenly matched kind of game, which kind of sums up how both of these teams has played. Where both of these teams have kind of got off to a very surprising start. With both of these teams that I picked them to finish in the bottom 2 of the standings. It's been kind of the complete opposite. I mean, Toronto is currently second in the Eastern Conference as we speak, and if you would told me that was the case in the beginning of the season, I would have think you're absolutely out of your mind. But all credit has to go to John Herman. And while it hasn't been pretty soccer that Toronto has been playing, it really doesn't matter. I mean, when you're a team that doesn't have a lot of talent and currently on a deep rebuild, and you're still able to get points, all credit has to do with John Herman, and especially the defense too. The defense has been so much better this season, which is something that I don't think any Toronto fans has been able to say about this team in the last 2 or 3 seasons. But now moving on in the next match, is Atlanta and New England. So I will say this: the scoreline kind of really flattened or how this game actually turned out. I don't think this game was as big of a blowout as what we saw eventually happen in the second half. I think this game was kind of a sense where both of these teams was very evenly matched in the first half. There was a lot of chances, and it was kind of an entertaining game to see things going back and forth in the first half. But New England just kind of ran out of gas in the second half. And this is not a big surprise considering we talk about all these teams in the CONCACAF Champions Cup struggling in league play. This week, teams that involved in the CONCACAF Champions Cup were 1-1 and 3 overall this week. That yeah, I mean those kind of fatigue and those fixture congestion that teams involving in CONCACAF Champions Cup is a real thing, and I think New England is basically facing the brunt of this. Now, early on, Lobjanidze would cross it wide from close range before Veroni would put it wide from long range. And I would like to say that this was probably the best attacking performance that New England had put in league play so far. And it kind of sucks the fact that they only had one goal to show for it, and that one goal didn't came until late in the second half. But both teams was getting some good early chances as it's been a very open kind of game. Sean Kalaewood had a shot that took a deflection that Guzan actually had to scramble back. I mean, I don't think Guzan realized that was getting very close to go into the top left of the corner, and he had to scramble and actually collide with the post. He would be okay though, but that must not felt good for Brad Guzan there. Speaking of the post, Sean Kalaewood then struck the post on the header in the 13th minute as New England had started to have most of the possession, and Atlanta was looking to sit back and counter. Amado would then hit one right to Ravis before he flashed one wide from long range, and then Shankalai on the other end would hit one right to Guzan as the shots were 6-3 for 25 minutes, but it kind of feels more than that. I mean, it was really back and forth early in this game. Amado would then put it wide from close in the 26th minute before Silva would hit one right to Ravis in the 30th minute. But then, just before we hit to halftime, a penalty was given to Atlanta after Yakimakis was brought down in the box. But weirdly, Saba Lobjanidze actually puts this one into the back of net. But unfortunately, this was before when the whistle was blown. So yeah, this it was kind of unfortunate for Atlanta, the fact that one, of course, went in, but this happened before the whistle was blown. So yeah, the penalty was given to Atlanta, and this is where it kind of got interesting, where it originally looked like Yakimakis was the one to take it, but then Amada basically took the ball away, and they mentioned that Amada has had problems in terms of scoring from the penalty spot. He's only 7 for 12 in his career scoring from the PK spot, and that include 3 times where he didn't even hit the target, and also include last year's season home opener where he missed a penalty against the Quakes in the first half. This time though he would bury it as he would score here to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now, in the second half, Yakimakis would put it over the bar from long range before Lobjanidze would hit one right to Ravis, as I thought Atlanta was on the front foot. They were looking to try to actually not push for the opener, but looking to try to get the second goal. And again, this is where you kind of start to see New England maybe running out of gas a little bit. And in the 53rd minute, another penalty was given to Atlanta after Lima handball into the box. Now, this is where we will talk about some of the controversial call, and I can understand why New England fans are very upset after this game because of some of the controversial call that got against them. This, of course, is one of them because, again, in this play, I don't know what Nick Lima can do in terms of this situation to not handball it. I mean, this was where his hand was kind of tucked in, and it just happened to me that it hit its hands like that, and that I thought that was a very harsh call, and that maybe New England kind of got hard done by that. But nevertheless, Atlanta wouldn't care. They got another penalty in this time, and this time it's actually Yakimakis, the one that takes the penalty. Something tells me Yakimakis must have told Amada that, yeah, if we get a penalty again in the second half, I'm taking this one. So he took this one and he buries it. So that made it 2-0 in favor of Atlanta United. Muyumba did look to get number 3, but he puts it high from long range. And then in the 60th minute, Yakimakis would score again as he scored here from Lennon to make it 3-0 in favor of Atlanta. Shankalai did try to answer, but he was denied by Guzan. And then on the other end, this is also another controversial call that New England fans will be very upset because there was no penalty that was given to New England after VAR deemed that Gregerson did not handball in the box. And I probably should have put did not handball with quotation mark because it was pretty clear that Gregerson handball this one. And I feel like this looked more like a handball than the one that Nick Lima that is worthy of a penalty, but apparently the referee didn't see it that way. They said no penalty, and then Shankalai did hits one right to Guzan in the 72nd minute, but then the 73rd minute, hat trick is complete for Giorgio Yakimakis, and that's actually his one as an Atlanta United player, as he scored here to make it 4-0 in favor of Atlanta United. And what a way to finish the hat trick, too. I mean, the fact that he hits this one on the volley from a tight angle like that and still were able to bear it into the top right corner. I mean, that is a sign of a confident striker. And I think that goal that Yakimakis scored from the penalty spot not only got his season to a kickstart, but this is a very scary proposition for all those teams in the Eastern Conference or anybody that face against Atlanta United if Giorgio Yakimakis can start scoring like that. I mean, again, there's a reason why I wouldn't be surprised he could be in the Golden Boot conversation because my goodness, that was an absolute stunning finish. And that if it wasn't for both Evander and Insigne scoring golazo, you could argue this hands down could be the goal of the week because the technique and the fact that he's able to score from that tight of an angle and hits it top in like that on the right side. I mean that was just incredible to see. Ravis then denied Lobshanise from the near post. It was pretty clear that New England has ran out of gas. Like they look like they were completely burned out because of the fixture congestion. Yakimakis did try for number 4 as he was trying to chip Ravis from long range, but missed wide there. I mean, why not? I mean, when you're feeling it, you're feeling it. But in the 81st minute, the shutout were broken when Carlos Gil would score from Izmir to make it 4-1 in this game. And yeah, that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this game, there was a lot of shots in this game. 21 shots compared to 14 that New England has. 9 shots on goal for the 5 that the Revs had. 5 shots off target for the 8 that Atlanta has. Both teams had 4 shots that was blocked in possession wise. 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Atlanta has. So I know New England fans will be very upset with some of the controversial call that gone against them. But overall, I think Atlanta was the better team in this one. And again, I think the story of this game is that New England just ran out of gas in the second half. And that happens when you have a team that has to deal with CONCACAF play and also MLS play at the same time. But what is still kind of concerning is the fact that it feels like New England. It's kind of almost like the complete opposite when it comes to league play and CONCACAF play. Like they've been absolutely lights out in CONCACAF play, but when it comes to league play, they have really struggled to a point where they're still one of 3 teams right now in MLS to still yet to register a point. But for Atlanta United, this is kind of the Atlanta that we thought they would be. And if this is kind of the Atlanta United we'll see in terms of their home play or even at times on the road, this is why I predicted them to finish first in the Eastern Conference in the beginning of the season, and that I think we can all so say that first game of the season against Columbus, that one was just maybe just a fluke with the fact that Atlanta maybe just need a bit of a wake up call to get themselves going, and they definitely got it going in this game. With that being said, moving on in the next one. Speaking of Columbus, so they play against the Chicago Fire, and oh boy, this felt like it was a typical Chicago Fire road game. So again, new year, same fire as what we've seen in terms of these reserved. Now, early on, Columbus was on the front foot, but the shots were 2-0 for the Fire 12 minutes in. Brady would deny Rossi on the free kick, and really not much happened in the first 30 minutes, despite the fact that Columbus was having a lot of possession. They were having a tough time trying to break down this Fire defense that was being very structurally good in terms of their defensive line. Though in the 37th minute, Cucho would hit one right to Brady, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Brady would deny Rossi after a bad turnover from the Fire. So yeah, you can't do that if you're the Chicago Fire, especially against this potent Columbus team. But Zawadzki would hit one right to Brady before Kiefer would put that wide from close in the 64th minute. Again, Columbus had most of the possession. The question is, can they break down this rigid Chicago back line that, again, throughout this game, Chicago was doing a really good job in terms of defending, despite the fact that they had to defend a lot throughout this game. There was a post in the 63rd minute that denied Kiefer's from close range, but in the 68th minute, Columbus finally broke through. It's Jason Russell Rowe scoring from Amundsen to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus, just to show you how Columbus is just so deep in terms of the attack. Like when you can bring in Jason Russell Rowe and he can still be a legitimate goal scorer, you know you have a deep team, especially on the attack. But unfortunately, that lead barely lasts 5 minutes because in the 73rd minute, Fabian Herberts would score from Haile Selassie to tie the game up at one apiece. Originally, the goal was disallowed for offside, but on further review, VAR says that Haile Selassie stay on an onside position, and therefore the goal was given. So it was tied up at one apiece. Russell Rowe did look to try to respond, but he puts it right to Brady. Columbus was there, definitely no doubt trying to press back with the lead. They would start to have most of the possession again. And then for some reason we get 12 minutes of stoppage time. And I've heard a lot of people were very very confused of why there was 12 minutes of stoppage time. And keep in mind, there I was actually watching four game at a time, so I wasn't really keeping an eye on this game. I was actually keeping mostly on this game and also the Minnesota versus Orlando game because this game was just so entertaining to watch. Though I kind of stopped writing notes near the end because I knew this game was a blowout. But even then, I'm kind of confused why we got 12 minutes of stoppage in this one. And you knew when there's like that many of stoppage time, especially if the Chicago Fire was just trying to hang on to get a draw of this game, you knew it's not going to go well because in the eighth minute of stoppage time, Russell Rowe thought that he scored his second goal of the game and get the lead back to Columbus, but the goal was disallowed for offside. But then in the 10th minute, Columbus would score that second goal either way, and instead it's Mo Farsi, the one that scored the second goal. That would actually turns out to be the latest game winner in league history, and it can only happen to none other than the Chicago Fire. I mean, I mean, row. Yep, that is a certified Fire moment that they would give up the latest goal to win the team game in MLS history. I mean, only the Chicago Fire can do it. This team has gone through so much bad things and so much stuff that I'm just gonna say that they're right now probably the most cursed MLS team. We in this past decade. I mean, it's crazy to see that this is happening over and over and over again. And this is where I'm not surprised if any Chicago Fire fans will have no optimism anymore with this team because again, they just keep doing this. I don't know how they can fix it. It doesn't matter if they change the head coach or change personality or even change ownership. This is still happening for almost a decade now. Really, for the past couple of seasons, the Fire would do something like that, which is concede a late road game goal, just like what we saw a couple of weeks against the Philadelphia Union. But the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 12 that Chicago has, 11 shots on goal for the 2 that Chicago has. Now, the 11 shots on goal is a little deceiving because most of the shots that uh, Columbus put against Brady was relatively easy for Brady to save. 4 shots off target for the 2 that Chicago has. 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Columbus had. And possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that Chicago has. And by the way, Columbus was the only team to win this weekend that they play in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And even then, they barely won this game. Again, just shows you how hard it is to win in league play and also keep up that same intensity in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. But nevertheless, they're very happy that they of course got the win. I believe that's now 15 great games that they have now gone without a loss going back to last year. But like I said, with the Chicago Fire, this just felt like a very typical fire kind of game, and this is where I don't know how you can fix this. Like there's really no way to fix this. I mean, the easiest way you can say is that it's a coaching problem, but it's been if that is the case, then how come we're still seeing this happening even though they change it head coach numerously that we're starting seeing the same thing. This is again why I've started thinking that the Chicago Fire might be the most cursed MLS team in MLS history because it just feels like it's happened every single week where this team somehow in some way will find a way to rip their fans heart because of a of conceding a late goal in a game. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 3 games to finish up part one of this review, looking at the first 7 games of a what was supposed to be a 14 game action in match week number 3, but now a 13 game action in match week number 3. So moving on, we got the New York Red Bulls and FC Dallas, and the Red Bulls, again, another team that continue to maybe surprise a couple of people in terms of the good start that they have. And I think the other thing that was very surprising coming out of this game is that Red Bull Arena was relatively full in this game, despite the fact that it was pouring down in rain in this game. Now, I said relatively full. There was definitely still empty seats, but for a game that was pouring down, and I know this is of course a season home opener, but I think there's definitely hype surrounding the Red Bull fan base of how good this team has got in the beginning of this season. Now, early on, there was a couple of half chances for both teams, but not much that trouble either goalkeeper. Pass would deny Frostberg on the free kick before Frostberg would puts it high on the free kick. How good has Emil Frostberg has been for this Red Bulls team? I mean, he's been everything advertised that the Red Bulls decided to get him this offseason as a DP. And in fact, in the 28th minute, there was a penalty that was given to the Red Bulls as Morgan brought down Tomasi, or actually, it's Lewis Morgan, the one that was brought down by Tomasi in the box, which allowed Emo Frostberg to score from the penalty, and he buries it to make it 1-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. Now, Morgan did look to try to get another, but he puts it wide there in the 33rd minute. It was all Red Bulls up to this point, and Dallas clearly has not shown up on this rainy night at Red Bull Arena. Though Tomasi did have a rare opportunity for Dallas, but he hits it wide from close range, and we head to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 1-0. It didn't take long for them to make it 2-0, as in the 53rd minute, Lewis Morgan would score from Frostberg to make it 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. And if Lewis Morgan continued the rate of scoring and assisting so far this season, you got to say he's probably the front runner of comeback player of the year. I mean, the fact that a guy that has suffered two, two back-breaking long-term injury and still show that same productivity that he has before these back-to-back long-term injury, there's no doubt that he's going to win the comeback player of the year if he can continue the form that he's in. But in the 59th minute, Dallas did get one back as Jesus Ferreira would score here to make it 2-1 in favor of Red Bulls. It was a great free kick there from Jesus Ferreira, and maybe a lifeline for the Dallas team that really didn't do much up to this point. Manuel did try to answer, but he was denied by Paz in the 60th minute before Harper would miss wide from close range. Paz then denied Burke in the front post, and the Red Bulls, they were pressing for a third goal because they know that they have seen these other reserves, including these two that I'll mention, that you don't not want to head into stoppage time or at least head to the last 10 minutes with just a 1 goal lead. No lead is safe this week in terms of how many late stoppage time goal that we've seen this week. Carmona did try to ice it for the Red Bulls, but he puts one right to pass, and then Musa hits one that was a weak shot, but Cornell still had to make a save in terms of pushing that away. And as the time winds down, Dallas was really pushing hard to try to get the equalizer. I mean, you kind of wish that they probably should done that much earlier, and because of that, unfortunately, they ran out of time. As in the end, Red Bulls hold on to win 2-1 in this one. The shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 13 that Dallas had, 8 shots on goal compared to 2 that Dallas had. Both teams had 4 shots off target, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that the Red Bulls had. And like I said, the Red Bulls, this is probably the best that they've been playing in these first 3 games, probably since they won the Supporters Shield in 2018. And you got to give all credit to Sanjo Schwartz and the fact that the Red Bulls are starting to finally playing their brand of soccer, and it finally worked out. And I think it's not a big surprise that it finally worked out, mainly because they actually have attackers that can actually not only create but also be a lethal goal scorer. I mean that partnership between Manuel. Or not Manuel, I'm sorry, but Morgan and Frostberg. It could be Elias Manuel if he can get things going, but that partnership between Morgan and Frostberg, those two guys are gonna be a very interesting uh tangent to watch, and might be one of the most exciting dynamic duo to watch as the season goes along. And I think you can also safely say that Red Bulls might be back to being at their best, and that this is something that I don't think I've been able to say about this Red Bulls team. Not even in their season when they finished third place in 2021, because of the fact that really I think in 2021 the only reason why they were so good was because of them being so good on the road, but also a team that just very solid on the defensive front. Well, not only the fact that this team is solid on the defensive front, but now they can score goals. Watch out, the Rebels can be a big surprise in the Eastern Conference and can definitely make some noise this season in the Eastern Conference. With that being said, moving on in the next match is Minnesota and Orlando. So this game was crazy and wild at the same time. Actually, I wouldn't say crazy and wild. I would more likely to say it's crazy and weird at the same time, because crazy and wild is pretty much the same thing. So why is it so weird? Well, just 1 minute into this game and literally 14 seconds into this game, and I didn't even have my notebook ready before I saw Duncan McGuire score here from Santos to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City, and that I actually had to look at the replay like what the hell happened. And again, not only the fact that I haven't had my notebook ready, I was still just kind of switching to other channels, seeing how if the other games have kicked off or not before I've already saw the ball ends up into the back net. And apparently what happened was there was a sloppy giveaway from Minnesota where, the Loons, when they got the ball first, they turned the ball immediately, and that allowed Orlando to capitalize on that. And that won't be the only time I'll talk about sloppy turnover for Minnesota. I have no idea how Minnesota win this game. This might be one of the biggest smash and grab win I've seen the Loons have got in quite a while now. But that being said, with Orlando leading 1-0, you're thinking this is a perfect start. This is exactly the start that they need. Well, then this happened in the fourth minute. Teemu Pukki would score here to tie the game up at one apiece, and yeah, Galese probably really felt bad for this Minnesota team after they decided to turn the ball over in their own end after just 14 seconds. That he decided to just kind of kick the ball right to Teemu Pukki. Well, I wouldn't say he kicked the ball right to Teemu Pukki. It's more like Pukki did a good job in terms of pressing high and gets to it. Again, this is the thing about Cam Nola's team. They're a team that likes to press high up the pitch, which is something that I'm not used to watching this Minnesota United team. But they did a good job in terms of pressing high. And again, Galese just being too casual there, got completely caught up because of Pookie was pressing high. And next thing you know, as he was trying to kick the ball away, Pookie was able to block that, and he hits it into the empty net. So yeah, not even 4 minutes into the game, it was all square at one apiece, and I'm just thinking, oh boy, this could be one of those MLS after dark kind of game that we've seen before. So after a wild start to this game, I did think that Orlando started to control this game, and Minnesota was basically pinned deep. McGuire would then hits one right to Dane Sinclair after just another giveaway from Minnesota. Again, the turnover, it was so frustrating to see in the first half, and really in this entire game, of how many times they keep turning the ball over and over again in the midfield. But in the 19 minutes, Sambin did try to chip the keeper, but it was gathered by Galese. I mean, why not? Galese has definitely not covered himself in glory in this game, so why not test him? But there was a shout for a penalty for Orlando not giving in the 23rd minute, and then Dane Sinclair in the 37th minute missed the punch as the ball come in. This won't be the only time we'll talk about goalkeepers making a mistake. I mean, goalkeeping mistake. There was a lot of that this week, besides the crazy amount of stoppage time winner that we got this week. But here, Dane Sinclair missed the punch off the ball as it was coming in, but Orlando just could not capitalize it because of that. And I mean, well, the Loons were playing with a lot of fire. Like, between these sloppy turnover and these defensive goalkeeping mistake, I thought eventually they're going to get burned. So, to my biggest surprise, after I wrote that, they would score in the 38th minute as Teemu Pukki would score from Robin Led to make it 2-1 in favor of Minnesota. It was completely against the run of plays, and one that Galese absolutely should have done better. I mean, I know Teemu Pukki, he did kind of stride it well. I mean, the fact that he at least generates some sort of power after he was kind of off balance, thinking the shot was kind of surprising, but just one that, again, it took a one hopper right into the near post. You know me, when it comes to goalkeepers and getting beat in the near post, I usually never like keepers getting beat in the near post unless if the ball sails over their heads or from close range. That probably I would forgive them, but that was one where it was kind of just a one hopper that Galese got something to it, and he couldn't keep it out. And again, this is the problem for Pedro Galese this season. He has really regressed this year, with the way that this is not the first time we have seen him make mistakes. I mean, prior to these two mistakes that he made in this game, we have seen him make some really bad mistake at time, and that that, I know this might sound crazy to say, and maybe a little overreaction. Maybe Orlando might need to think about getting a new goalkeeper as soon as this next offseason if Galese's performance doesn't improve. But in the 43rd minute, Pookie did look for the hat trick, but he missed high there. And all of a sudden, a little like momentum was with Minnesota as they were pressing to try to get another goal. Well, Orlando probably saw that because they started to press back. Ojeda tried to curl it in, but he missed high there before Felipe hits an absolute sitter on the doorstep of goal. And I mean, wrote the Loons need halftime badly because Orlando was really buzzing. They were looking to try to tie the game up. They probably are pissed the fact that they're down in this game, despite they were by far the better team. And then the fourth man stoppage time, Dane Sinclair would deny Ojeda from 12 yards out. Thankfully, the halftime whistle was sounded, and Minnesota somehow still had a 2-1 lead heading into the second half. But in the second half, it was pretty much more of the same. Angulo would hit one right to Dane Sinclair. Again, more of the same in the second half with Orlando pressing to get the equalizer. Ladero would hit one right to Dane Sinclair before Enrique would miss wide from close range. And again, Orlando just completely dominating the second half. It feels like it's Rohivo all over again for this Minnesota United team. But unfortunately for Orlando, just like the Tigres game, they just have not been able to show that clinical finishing that they desperately needed to get the equalizer. Ojeda then goes on his bike there, but missed Hyde in the 56th minute before Holiday would miss wide on the back post in the 60th minute. The shots were 11-6 for Orlando, which I find it hard to believe that's actually the shot total because it feels more than 11-6. It feels like 19-6 in my opinion because it was just wave after wave of pressure that Orlando was putting against the Loons. McGuire then puts it wide from the six that he knew nothing about this one. I mean, this ball just kind of comes into the box and McGuire almost kind of caught surprised the fact that the ball ends up near him. And then in the 78th minute, Galese had to deny Longwane, which that was really the first chance for Minnesota and really the first time they actually attack in the second half because they were pretty much pinned deep in their own end for the entire second half. Vauxhall would then blast it high from long range in the 80th minute, but then in the 83rd minute, you knew this was coming. Duncan McGuire would score from Ojeda to tie the game up at two apiece, and guess what? It came off of a turnover from the this Loons midfield. I mean, again, how many times I've said that when you turn the ball over in your own half, bad thing is going to happen. And with the way that how they've been turning the ball over and over again in this game, I knew eventually they were going to get burned. I mean, they already got burned in the first 14 seconds. So why not do it again in the 83rd minute? Though I will say that besides the bad turnover, you also got to put the blame on Miguel Tapias here. He just didn't close McGuire down. You cannot let Duncan McGuire have a free range a shot from 18 yards out because even though I know Orlando City hasn't been clinical in terms of finishing, Duncan McGuire is going to see that and he would his eyes is going to lift up into the bottom left corner and that's exactly what he did. So, yeah, the game was tied up at two apiece. Holiday would then hit one so badly that it stay in play, which I think that kind of sums up Orlando City finishing tonight because unless your name is not Duncan McGuire, Orlando just could not finish whatsoever. But then in the fifth minute of stoppage time, just as I thought that maybe Orlando was going to press to try to get that winning goal, uh, really just kind of completely against the run of plays and out of nowhere, Mwane would score from Oluwaseyi to make it 3-2 in favor of Minnesota. So that's now three consecutive games that this Minnesota team have scored a goal in stoppage time, and that's also three straight game that Oluwaseyi has either been on the goal scoring chart or on the assist chart. I swear this kid is just so talented, and I'm just so happy to see these kids are doing so well because this is something you will never see under the days of Adrian Heath. And really, this play again, the fact that I say out of nowhere is kind of summarize this play too because it literally was just a simple goal kick that I think Abada Smith was able to flick it to Oliver Shai, who was in on goal. Like, where the heck was the midfield and defense for Orlando City in this one? I mean, they just completely switched off in this moment, and unsurprisingly, they were punished because of that. And then at the full time whistle, the tempers really started to boil over. There was a big coming together between both of these teams. I believe there was even two red cards that was handed out, one by each team. I think Cartianga and also Rosales got sent off respectively because of that big coming together. Obviously, I didn't put it on there because The league website didn't say it on but from what I heard, it seems like those are the two players that got sent off near the end of the game. But yeah, in the end, you talk about a smash and grab. This was a classic example of a smash and grab for Minnesota in a game where they just got completely outshot and outplayed in this one. They somehow walk away with all 3 points in this one. 3-2 win is the score as the shots in this game, 20 free shots compared to 10 that Minnesota has. 5 shots on goal compared to 8 that Orlando City has. 9 shots off target through the 3 that Minnesota has. 2 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Minnesota has in this game. Surely they can't keep getting away with this, the Loons. I mean, I swear, I keep saying that this is definitely the unsustainable of what this team has done, which is scoring free goals either to tie the game to salvage a point like they did last week against Columbus, or scoring a goal that in stoppage that time that turns out to be the game winner, like what we saw in this game and in the one against Austin. But hey, they keep doing it, so I'm just gonna enjoy the ride until when we see Eric Ramsey take over this team and hopefully bring that same resiliency that we saw under Cam Nolis right now. But for Orlando City, this has to be very frustrating. And I would say that this was probably their best attacking performance they've put pretty much in this entire season. And the fact that they have nothing to show for it, not even a single point to show for, very frustrating night for the Lions in this game. And now they're gonna have to try to recover and hopefully put on a similar performance minus the bad finishing in a crucial second leg tie down in Monterrey and down in El Volcan against Tigres. But now moving on in the last match on this board is Austin and St. Louis. So talk about stoppage time goal. This game also featured that. Though I will say that in this game, St. Louis, they almost found the same problem that Orlando City felt in this game where they dominate against their opposition, looked like they had nothing to show for, but they were able to rescue themselves a point out of this game. Now, early on, the first shot of the game did see Jackson puts one right to Stuver, but then the 14th minute, the first shot for Austin ends up into the back of the net. It's Matt Hedges scoring from Alex Rain to make it 1-0 in favor of Austin. That was the first career goal for Matt Hedges for Austin FC. And in terms of scoring from a defender for Austin in this game, that was kind of the theme in this one because, well, if none of our attacker can score goals, why not rely on the defender to score? I mean, obviously that's not a long-term solution that you want to have if you're Austin FC, but hey, it kind of worked out for them in this game, at least early on, as they lead 1-0 in this one. But St. Louis really started to took control of this game as they were pressing back to get the equalizer. The post denied Adeniran from close in the 21st minute before Stuver denied Vasiles from close. Leuven would then puts it high despite had an empty net after Stuver came off his lines and didn't get it. So again, this is very similar to what we saw in the situation with Dane Sinclair coming off his lines, didn't get to the ball there, and that uh, just like Dane Sinclair, Roman Stuber's very thankful that he was not punished because of that. But at this point, I also wrote it's been all St. Louis since the opening goal for Austin. They were pushing hard to try to get the equalizer. Moving had a free kick that also hits the post, but it looked like when that one hits the post, it was gonna bounce in. It was kind of like post and in here, but somehow in some way Stuver, I don't know how he was able to save this one off the line, and St. Louis was definitely making a huge appeal to say that that one crossed the line, and I think they did go to VAR to check to see whether or not if that ball crossed the line, and it was really hard to tell. I think it might have crossed the line, and remember, goal line technology is not a thing in MLS yet, so because of the fact that I think they didn't really have a definitive angle that the ball crossed the line, they stick with the original call. But then just 1 minute after that instance, Stuver had to deny Leuven from long range. And again, St. Louis was just buzzing up to this point, and it just feels like this is another game where Stewart simply had to bail out this Austin team. I mean, he kind of did it against Minnesota, at least in the first half, and it feels like it might be a repeat in this game as well, as somehow in some way, despite Austin was under siege in the first half, they lead 1-0 heading into the second half. But unfortunately, that lead quickly disappeared as a penalty was given to St. Louis after Ring brought down Jackson in the box. Leuven basically steps up to take the penalty, and after after getting bitten by the post in the first half and missing an empty net. He would buries it from the spot here to tie the game up at one apiece. And you're thinking, well, this is when St. Louis is going to run away, right? However, in the 51st minute, Cascante would score from rain to give Austin the lead back. Again, Austin, if none of their attacker can score, why not just rely on our defenders? And really, this was just a classic example of St. Louis completely switch off after scoring. Again, you're always the most vulnerable when you just score a goal, and St. Louis didn't get that memo. They completely switched off on the defensive end and allow Austin the lead back. Though Pompeo did look to answer, but he hits it right to Stuver before Klaus would puts it wide from close in the 82nd minute. And really, as the time winds down, Austin was sitting deep. They were looking to hold on to get their first win of this season, but as we talked about throughout part one of this review, that usually does not end up well because as the theme of this week, it's stoppage time goal. And we saw one in this one too, as Cecilio Pompeo would score from Totland to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As in the end, St. Louis, unlike Orlando City, they were able to salvage themselves a draw despite they were by far the better team in this one, and the stats basically show on too. 18 shots committed, just 4 that Austin had, 2 shots on goal for the 8 that St. Louis had, 3 shots off target for the 1 that Austin had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 5 that St. Louis had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that Austin has in this game. And I also would like to say that I don't think either of these coaches is going to be happy with this resort. I mean, I know St. Louis will you would think that they would be happy because they salvaged a draw by scoring a late winner like that, but the fact that they dominated this game and the fact that they're playing one of the worst team in the league, at least in these according to these first 3 games, and they got to point out this. Oh, they'll definitely be left a little frustrated, especially with the chances that they've been given. But for Austin, they definitely won't be happy because they gave up. They let this one slip. I mean, I know they didn't play well in this game either, and the attack is still just a complete black hole right now, and the same goes for the defense as well. I mean, literally, I wouldn't say it's Austin FC versus St. Louis. I would just say it's probably more like Austin FC defender and Brad Stuver against St. Louis City, because that's really kind of the theme in this game. And I would maybe even say it's Stuver versus whoever Austin is gonna face in the near future, because really, besides Brad Stuver, this team, there's a lot of black holes and a lot of bad performance that it is going on all over the field, and that this has got to be frustrating. The fact that it looked like they finally maybe get a win that maybe they kind of didn't deserve, but at least kind of kick off the season and get some momentum, and they can't even do that and let 3 points stepped up away at home. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of me looking at these 7 games. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 7 games that I review. And tomorrow I, of course, will finish up the review looking at the 6 games. And believe me, in those games, there were definitely some dramas late in the game as well. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.